Welcome to West Country Wanderings and welcome to one of my railway series videos. Today I'm here at Yate in South Gloucestershire. This here is the Bristol to Birmingham main line, but we're not here to look at that today. We're actually interested in these two lines that converge away from the main line. This, of course, is the Titherington branch line. In fact, it originally ran from here to the town of Thornbury, also in South Gloucestershire. What I'm aiming to do today is tell you a little bit more about the history of this line and to show you what remains of this current in-use line today and see what we can see the line from places like level crossings and bridges, so we can follow the route from where it leaves the main line here at Yate to where it heads over to the town of Thornbury. Today, of course, it's known as the Tytherington branch line because it feeds a working quarry. So why not follow me here on one of my railway series uncovering the Tytherington branch line. Now, you're perhaps thinking that this line closed as part of Beeching Cluts and then became a freight line. Well, the history of it's a little bit more complicated than that. It actually closed to passengers in 1944, although the Yate station was still open at that time. Yate station was a victim of Beeching Cluts some 20 years later, but of course it's currently reopened. I think it was either at the end of the 1980s, I think it was around 1988, perhaps early 90s. I'll drop that in below because I think this one opened before Cam and Dursley, which is a bit further up the track there in the direction of Gloucester. It's well used, this station today, of course, because it's a main commuter station for the people that live in Yate to get into the large conurbation of Bristol and on obviously further south than that. Now, just behind me here, over on the other side of that fence, is some remnants of platforms. I'm not sure if that was the original platform for this station when Yate Station was opened in the 1960s, or it was part of a siding and perhaps a goods loading platform. When you come through this station on the train, which I've done many times, of course, with West Country Wanderings, where we've been heading down towards Bristol and Bath and places beyond into Somerset and indeed Dorset on one occasion when I went to Yetminster, you can see odd mileposts. There are odd little sidings further up the track that way. So I think this site was originally quite extensive in terms of goods. The other thing to note is that there is another branch line which runs slightly beyond the bridge, and in fact we'll have a look at Yate Station a bit more in a bit because it is odd because there is no platform on that side. I'll explain why in a minute. But there is another branch line, and that is the one that goes down to Westerly Goods Yard, which is a large oil terminal. You often see oil trains running up and down the track here. That, of course, used to be the former Midland Railway line, which ran down to Mangotsfield and then on to Bath Green Park. So where is the opposite platform here at Yate? Well, it actually lies the other side of that railway bridge. It's through the railway bridge and then on the right-hand side. One of the reasons for that, of course, is because of the operation of this line here. There is a third track there, which is the access point for the Titherington branch, which makes it impossible to have a platform immediately adjacent to this one, which is a southbound platform heading down to Bristol. The other strange thing here is there's no overbridge to access the northbound platform heading up to Gloucester and Birmingham and beyond. You have to go into the car park, up a set of steps, onto the main road, across on the pavement, using that bridge there, down another set of steps, and then turn left onto the platform, which is quite a complicated process. And of course, it doesn't make it exactly user-friendly if you've got pushchairs and you're in a wheelchair either. So it's not a great accessible station here in that regard. But it's better that we have a station, of course, than one not at all. A 7.5 mile branch from here at Yate to the South Gloucestershire town, which was actually in Gloucestershire then, opened on the 2nd of September in 1872. Initially, just 2 return trains ran. I believe there was 2 in the morning and 2 return trains in the evening. Perhaps they just had a couple of carriages and 1 little locomotive. Details remain a bit sketchy on that, but I believe it was in 1910 when they increased that to 4 trains a day, and they had a journey time approximately of 20 minutes. And I guess if they reopened this line, then it would be a very, very similar type of journey time today. There is an issue with reopening this line for passengers. Obviously that would be a fantastic advantage to people who live in Thornbury, but unfortunately where the station was originally sited in Thornbury, which is currently a branch of Tesco's and their car park, there's lots of housing which has been built between that site there and where this railway originally went into the town of Thornbury, which would mean that if they did reopen this at some future point, the station would have to be sited on the outskirts of the town because of all that development. A fabulous engine shed survivor here at Yate. I'm just trying to point, I can't see, the sun's in my eyes there, so hopefully that's pointing in the way. Anyway, it's behind me. I'll do some close-up photographs and superimpose that now. And it looks like that at one time Yate had quite an extensive station yard. In fact, the overbridge is called Yate Station Yard, and you can see that, and it's now various workshops and assorted curio shops, but a large extensive area. The other thing to note here is that this fence here on this side of the platform is a truncated version of the original extent of the station, because I believe in the undergrowth there, and you've got this factory buildings, redundant factory buildings on that side, the platforms still lie in that part there. And the other thing I found was a siding as well, which has been long taken out of use, but that is buried on the opposite side of the platform I was on first of all. You're thinking, you said that this is an open branch line and it's still in use by trains, so why haven't you filmed one of the trains using it? Well, although I've just shot a train there, gone through without stopping, obviously, one of the cross-country services heading south, probably to Penzance, Plymouth or Paignton, one of the three P's. The station here doesn't see many of the quarry trains because they tend to run overnight to avoid interfering with the passenger services, of course. I believe there is a train timetable to leave Acton West Depot in West London. I think it leaves around 1:45 according to real-time trains, and arrives here several hours later, making its way and sneaking off into the branch line there, and then bunkering up for the daytime to be filled up with stone from the quarry at Titherington, and then making its way back during the hours of darkness, which means, of course, it's extremely difficult to actually see any of these quarry trains running. But you just have to take my word for it that they are currently running. Now, the line closed around 2010, kind of reopened 2013, and then it was shut again 2014, was mothballed by Network Rail, and I believe Hanson now operates the quarry at Titherington. The line was reopened in 2017, and although it is timetabled for a stone train to run every single day, that doesn't of course mean that they do run every single day. They are timetabled to, but it's on an as and when basis for the needs of the quarry and supplying stone out to wherever it is required. And so it is tricky, so don't turn up expecting to see loads of stone trains, perhaps like you can do when you go to Westbury and you see stone trains from Mendip Quarries flying all over the place there, all times of the day. But here it is a little bit less frequent than that, but it is good to see that the branch is open and taking all those lorries off our congested roads. Now, the first thing you come to after leaving Yate station around the side of the industrial estate is the first overbridge in the direction of Thornbury after leaving Yate. But not only that, we also have a passenger creep which goes underneath the railway line that follows the River Frome. So we're going to have a look at that next. The thing to note here, of course, is that originally this was a 2-track. I'm not sure how much the track was 2-track. We've got some sidings marked on the US map. I don't know if they're still there. We're going to have a look at that shortly. But of course, when the line closed, probably when after 1944, when passenger services, or perhaps when the freight, not the quarry's freight services, but the ordinary freight services servicing the goods yard at Thornbury closed in the 1960s, it was truncated and then was reduced to just a single track bridge here. So we have this passenger walkway behind me. The track here seems to be quite wide. Obviously I can't view it from above, but it's also on a skew arrangement. Have the River Frome just down here. That's not the one that runs alongside the Stroudwater Canal. A few miles to the north of here, it's a separate River Frome. I think it's sometimes referred to as the Bristol River Frome, and it has a walkway, and we come across that when I did the little video around Iron Acton, which is somewhere we're going to be visiting shortly. So I'm now at the Pagford Old Bristol Road overbridge, 1 mile and 73 chains since we left the Midland Main Line at Yate station. So here we have our branch line heading towards Thornbury in that direction, obviously more specifically the Tytherington Quarries. Interestingly here, there are a couple of level crossings in Iron Acton. There's one just that way behind me. I've just done a little video clip of that. You can actually see the red flasher to alert the driver that the level crossing hasn't been shut down. It is an open barrier. By shut down I mean that the warning sirens aren't on the other side to alert the people driving or pedestrians even using that little country lane there. But there's a bigger level crossing here in Iron Acton on the main road. We're going to have a look at that next. I do apologise for the road noise here, but this is the Iron Acton bypass crossing. This level crossing is relatively newer. I'm not sure when the Iron Acton bypass was opened, perhaps in the 1980s, but obviously this level crossing didn't exist when this railway line was first built in the 1860s. Now, just around this area there was a little branch spur off this line towards Thornbury, and that served the ironstone mines at Frampton Cotterell. This area used to have coal mining as well as ironstone, hence the name Iron Acton. And those mines that little branch line served was quite short-lived. We came across it when I did the Iron Acton video, so if you want to have a look at that, I saw a bridge which is where the little branch line went across the River Frome, just on the outskirts of Iron Acton here. Anyway, this is a noisy location. This railway line obviously continuing that way to Thornbury. I'll just include some shots now so you can see it's a freight line and not a passenger line. You can see the dips and bumps, which obviously wouldn't be acceptable if it was a passenger line here, and obviously it is only has freight status, and obviously it's not going to bother those slow moving very heavy stone trains, but obviously it would need to be upgraded if such this line should ever open again. It does go into quite rural countryside now, and there is very little public access beyond this point, so we're going to head down now further around towards the village of Titherington. Now in the delightful village of Titherington. Now Titherington has two overbridges like that, and just to point out that obviously this originally was a double bridge, double width bridge, as you can see, but not only has it been reduced in width, it has been strengthened as well, as you can see by the thickness of the concrete. I'll just do a close-up shot of that there for you. Titherington was also the site of one of the two intermediate stations when this line was open for passengers from the 1870s right through to 1944. The station at Iron Acton we actually saw in the Iron Acton video, and I'll do a link for that video in the description below. And that is near the first level crossing, the smaller level crossing where you saw the flashing red beacon warning the train drivers. But yeah, this is one of the two overbridges. We're going to have a look at the second overbridge shortly, but before we do that, I've just noticed that this is called Station Lane, so perhaps down here was the site of the former station here at Titherington. Now I've just walked along the what's called Station Lane here at Titherington, expecting to see some remnant, and I know I appreciate it closed a long time ago in 1944, but I can't find anything, not a fence post, not a brick, not a little gateway, not a little avenue to where this platform was here. Very little. What I will do is I will go back and look at the old Scottish Library's website to see what is indicated on the old OS maps of this area to give us some indication of where exactly the station lay, and if I find anything I'll put that in now, and also see what I can see on Google Earth as well. Just behind me we've got some, no, that way no, that way, I was right the first time. there, so because it's always the wrong way around when you're doing this, so I can't really see where it is. No, somewhere behind me anyway, behind my head. I can't point to it. Behind my head is some track panels. They're not concrete, they are wooden track panels. Obviously that's what they tend to use on this line because it's a freight line, not so not worried about the comfort of the ride, but looks like they're waiting to be fitted onto this line here. And of course also here the line is on an embankment above the village of Titherington. So all we're going to do now is we're going to have a look and see if we can find this other overbridge here in the village. So behind me here is the final overbridge in the direction of Thornbury. We're just over 5 miles now from leaving the town of Yate, where this branch line left the Midland Main Bristol to Birmingham line. We also have an access point here, Network Rail access point along this track that I'm currently standing on. Presumably that's how they get in to replace the track panels, or where they'll be doing that at some future point. But again here, like all the overbridges that we've seen along this branch line, it has been reduced in width but also strengthened because of the weight of the stone trains. Now after leaving Titherington, this branch line continues and goes straight into a Titherington tunnel, and that tunnel goes underneath the M5. Of course, the tunnel wasn't built for it to go under the M5. The M5 was routed to go over the top of the branch line at that point where this railway is inside a tunnel to stop another bridge being built, and obviously it was strong enough to carry that. But prior to the M5 opening in 1953 or perhaps 1956, I'll put a usual thing subtitle below just to check that, there was a rockfall in the tunnel and it closed the time for a period of time, but it was then repaired. Now Titherington Tunnel isn't the only tunnel on this little branch line, this just over 7 mile branch line from Yate. There is another one called Grovener Tunnel. Now that tunnel, perhaps we might be able to see the front portal of it. It's not currently used because it's the section of the line which is out of use from Tytherington Quarry towards the town of Thornbury, and it also passes under the main Bristol road, the A38, so that's where there might be an access point. Sadly there is no public right of way to enable me to see anything of Titherington Tunnel though, alas. Sadly, so yeah, I know urbexers have probably done YouTube visits of going in there, but of course that's all illegal and going into the land of trespass, and that's something I'm not prepared to do on my channel. But we will continue the journey here to see what we can see of the quarry, and maybe perhaps a siding or two where this railway line currently terminates. So this is the end of the line, or the current line, shall I say, not the original line, which was the passenger line that closed in 1944. This is the site of the Aggregates rail terminal, and it's obviously owned by Mainline. The quarry itself is run by Hanson. Interesting, we've got some rail chairs here and some sleepers in this area, so obviously this is an access point for Network Rail as well as the quarry and rail side of the operation here. So don't think there's anything going on today. Today is a Sunday. There are signs there. I'll include a shot of that now saying when blasting take place. It says 1 o'clock on the sign, so maybe it's 1 o'clock tomorrow lunchtime, so that'll be a big din when that goes off. But yeah, so this is the end of the line here at Tytherington Quarry. Obviously there's big grey fences all around here. Wouldn't even attempt to try and get into a quarry area because obviously they're dangerous places, and obviously it's completely verboten in terms of trespass, etc. So I can't film any more here. So what I'm going to do now is going to go on to Grovener itself and see if we can see anything of that tunnel from the A38 or from the sides and the little lane around it. There's also a siding on the other side of that. I don't know if I can get a shot of that as there for you either, but well, see what I can do anyway. So this is Grovener overbridge. This is last overbridge to show you today, but I've just come across some really interesting things, and as I do this piece of camera I'm going to insert them various bits. The first bit is I stopped near the A38, just near the turning there, the main Bristol Gloucester road, and I found the entrance to Grovener tunnels. Now I didn't realise when I was doing my research there's actually a 2-bore tunnel, and I've got all kinds of questions now thinking, well, they had two trains a day back when this line opened in the 19th century. So why did they need a 2-bore tunnel just to serve the little town of Thornbury? I don't know. The other thing about the two-bore tunnel is that although it's not in use, as you'll see from the images I'm inserting now, it does appear, certainly the portal does, and the entrance appears to be in very good condition because it appears to be concrete lined, and that doesn't look that old. The purpose of that is a mystery. I'm not sure when that happened or why, or no idea. Now, although the line closed here in 1944 as far as passenger is concerned, it carried on as a freight line to serve the town of Thornbury, but as far as I can make out, it wasn't in any sort of heavy freight. And I don't know if they had problems with, because they'd had problems with Titherington Tunnel in the 1950s, whether as a precaution in the early 1960s they then lined Grovener Tunnel. Perhaps that's the explanation. But as you can see, it's no longer in use, but it does appear to be in very good condition. I've no idea what the rest of the state of the tunnel is. Further in, it does look like there's been vandalism and graffiti, but I'm not prepared to go climbing down that bank to explore that any further. And in terms of the opening plans, it does say that it will need full investigation structural work to open that tunnel again. The other interesting thing there is a very large head shunt on the top of Grosvenor Bridge at the moment. Just that way into the quarry there are two tracks. It diverges at this point, and you have this single track here, head shunt, which continues all the way right to the entrance to the tunnel, but not on the level with the tunnel, but actually above it on a different level. The interesting thing about that is it appears to be quite new. The track is very, very new, and the ballast, all the sleepers have been replaced quite recently, and I think that's happened since this line opened for freight back in 2017. So obviously, because of that, because they've obviously invested money in the infrastructure, the railway infrastructure at this point, it must be a profitable venture for Network Rail and for Mainline for carrying the freight aggregate out of here to wherever it's needed on the rail network. The other thing to note is that there is extensive sidings down that way, and I've used my telephoto lens to insert some shots I took of that now, just to give you an insight as to the railway connection here to the quarry. And there, as far as I can see, without a drone it's difficult, but as far as I can see, there does appear to be sidings on both sides. So we saw that entrance to the mainline depot. I did that piece of camera just for you just now, and that's on one side of the road. This is on the other side of the quarry now. That's where we have that rail connection there as well. But of course the line would have continued through here underneath this Grosvenor overbridge. It then goes through those two Grovener tunnels. Well, I'm really excited about it. I can't quite believe that. And then that, of course, that continued on to the town of Thornbury. Now, there isn't much point me continuing the journey on into Thornbury because there is very little remains there. Most of the railway infrastructure has been built over. There are housing estates. There is a little bit of a cutting, but there isn't much to see. There's certainly no railway track beyond the other side of the A38 there that the shot I've just included. The other little snippet, nothing to do with the railway, is that there does appear to be a remains of a small little aqueduct. Looks like it's made of iron. It's obviously now truncated. It was obviously put there as the aqueduct to go over the top of the railway, and obviously that would have been built after the railway opened, because there would have been no cutting there before the railway was built. To what purpose that aqueduct served, a little mill or something, I'm not too sure. If anybody knows, can shed any light on that, I'll be really interested. Again, if I can see anything on the OS maps, the old OS maps, I will insert that, but I don't think I'm going to come up with anything on that one. But yeah, I've really enjoyed this little venture here in South Gloucestershire, in covering what I can of this fascinating little freight branch railway from Yate to Tytherington Quarry. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little railway series tour of the Titherington branch here on West Country Wanderings. If you did, please consider a like, a subscribe, a share, perhaps a comment. Until next time on West Country Wanderings, there'll be other videos, perhaps on canals, other ones on railways, on walking in the West Country, other bits and pieces as well. If you click that bell, when you subscribe, then YouTube will tell you what that video will be. Take care of yourselves, and hope to see you on West Country Wanderings again very soon. All the best for now. Cheers. Goodbye.